Hello and welcome to this skills development video, which is a little bit different to some of the other ones. This one is focused on bits and pieces that are inspirational to me, that I found really helpful and that I've enjoyed, or kind of am enjoying at the moment, that I wanted to share with you. So there are just a number of books that I found that are along different themes, and we'll go through what they look like and how they work for me personally. But I just thought it might be something for you to look into and to give a little bit of inspiration to yourselves during these times as well. Just to say, kind of, I'm not endorsed by any of these. These are just ones that I've enjoyed and what have you, and that I've come up with. I will put links to some bits and pieces for them in the description so that you can find them nice and easily. But I just wanted to show you some of the bits and pieces that I've used. Some bits we've looked at already in previous videos, but just to give you a bit of a sense of what they look like and how they are, if you haven't looked at them already. Right, so let's spin over. I would just say apologies for this camera. It may not be the best view, but it's the only one I've got to do a little overhead shot. So the first one that I wanted to share with you is these guys. So we've got How to Think When You Draw with Lorenzo. Now this was from a Kickstarter campaign, and this is the Everything Brothers blog that I've used before, and these are the books that Chris got when the Kickstarter campaign was going on. Now it's worth checking out their blog because I think there will be another release of these at some point, but they aren't readily available. But you know, if you've watched some of the other videos, that some of their bits and pieces are on their blog as well, so that you can get a bit of a sneak preview. But these books are great if you are not used to drawing. Let's have a look at that. Sausage dogs. I mean, why wouldn't you? But just the way that it goes through, and it breaks down the process, and it looks at different ways of drawing and developing an idea, and looking at how movement and motion and all of that works through a number of different options. So we'll go from sausage dogs to lightning, electricity. So it's not just character design, it's everything really. It's developing your backgrounds, your scenes, your placement of different things, which is, there's some really lovely ones in terms of placement of characters during conversations, which would be perfect for when you're developing that idea for a cutscene or anything like that within your games, within a narrative. All right. So it's How to Think When You Draw with Lorenzo. There are 2 volumes. There is a blue one, and there is a second one, which is an orange one. And like I say, you can find their blog, and I'll put the link on the description so that you can find it. But some of these we've looked at already. Lower Sixth, we've looked at them in lesson, and we've also looked at some of them in some of the earlier skills development videos, so you should be familiar with these, but just so that you can see what they look like, and like I say, we have a copy within college, so you can look at those and how they use. The second one I wanted to show you is this one. I'm just going to flick my screen so that we've got a second display up. There we go. All right. So this is Creating Stylized Characters. Now, I really love this book. I got it at Christmas, and it's got just a number of different ideas and ways that you can look at these characters. And this is my preferred art style. I like this kind of stuff. I like drawing this stuff. I like mucking about with this kind of style and seeing what I can come up with. So this is kind of really in my ballpark. But on screen is their website. You can get some of their stuff through kind of usual resellers, Amazon and bits pieces is where I got mine, I think. But on their website, I just wanted to share this with you as well. If we just kind of scrub to the end, because I know where this book is. So you've got standalone titles there, and there's the one that I've got, and there is a companion book that goes with it, which looks at the entertainment industry as a whole. I went for this one initially, but you can see that there are a number of different titles within this series and within this publishers, but this is really nice. And if you've watched the second video, the first video, sorry, the 3 shaped characters that I did in skills development, apologies, then this is almost the next step on. It's looking at how you can develop those shapes. If you just look at this guy down here, you've got those really simple shapes that they give you that outline, and then looking at how you can develop that stylized nature using the different shapes and using the kind of chunkiness of this character, if you like, to really give a sense of this character's backstory and what he's like and how he's going to react and how he's going to behave. And when you're thinking of a narrative and you're thinking of your game's design and how that might work, some of these elements are really key because it can really change what you do. If you look at this guy up here, this is a totally different character, and you would expect him to behave differently, sound differently, react differently to anything that you're doing within game, with anything that you're looking at. So make sure, please, that you check this out because this is really interesting, and it's the next kind of step on from where we're going through, where we're looking at with some of the characters and some of the early terms. So I've got this guy, and the other section I like about this book, it's a bit later on, is that some of the artists that are involved in this book have gone through the whole process of developing a character and looking at the different avenues that it can go down. So we start here. We've got little mind map which we have used and we've done in lesson before loads of times, but then it starts looking at the different ways that the research and the ideas can formulate as you go through until you start hitting on this kind of one idea that you want to focus in on and develop as you go through. And this section is really lovely. There's about 4 or 5 of these I think in this book, which go through different characters and the different ways that they might develop all the way through, and the artists kind of annotate and share their thoughts and their process. So it's just a really interesting idea and look at how the mind of an artist and stylizing a character in particular can really work and be really beneficial. The other thing I like this, and I stumbled across this after getting this book, so I didn't really know anything about this, but the 3D Total Publishing website has got kind of links to all of their different things. They do periodicals and they do other books and bits and pieces like this. But these ones are quite interesting. These sketch workshops, which I think you can probably find fairly easily. I think you can probably buy them on this website. But what's interesting about these is that they have resources linked to them. So you can jump to the resources section in their website, and then they are just down here somewhere. And then these sketch workshop resources, when you download them, they're just a PDF, but they've got some really faint starting points for you to then build on. So you can print them out and you can build on the character. You can follow their route if you like, but it will just give you a little bit of a guide through. If you're not used to drawing or playing around and sketching different characters and ideas throughout, or it's something that you want to develop further and see where you can go with it, then these are really nice things. You might be able to, I'm sure you can, spend a bit of time, look at the website. Like I say, I'll put it in the description, and find the actual books and magazines, periodicals that go with these, but you can grab these right now and you can play around with them before you get those, or before you kind of look at those as you go through. All right, so that's my second one, creating stylized characters. That's from 3D Total Publishing. Like I say, you can get it from different places. Couple of slightly different ones now. This one is Felicia Day. She's author, actor, producer. I think she produces a web series and bits and pieces as well. And this is, I think it's her second book, and it's called Embrace Your Weird, which is a great title. And I've only just recently got this. I've not had much time to look at it yet, but I just wanted to share this with you. This is a really interesting book in terms of developing your creativity and looking at how you can view things in a different way, try things out, muck around with an idea, kind of screw it up, throw it away, come back to it, things like that. I don't know how well it will come out, but I just wanted to share some things with you. So this page here, so you can see you've got space in the book as well, so you can play around with the book itself. So this almost becomes your sketchbook as you go through. And this first page, I'm just going to read it to you because I can see it's not coming out very well, but try this on this page. It says, you just open the front door and a dinosaur in a tuxedo lunges for your face. What do you do? Fill up the page with what comes to mind. Incomplete sentences or drawings are fine. Just go, go, go. You have 5 minutes, put a timer on and start. What? It's things like that that's weird and wonderful, and then it goes through and it develops kind of how you can play around with creativity in different ways, whether it's mind maps, whether it's kind of writing something out, whether it's rewriting song lyrics, whatever it might be that you're kind of looking at. And it goes through different elements, things that stop you from being creative, looking at different ways of how people can support you in being creative, all manner of different things. So it's really interesting. This one I quite like because it's my kind of thing, but you've got one one, describe your own superhero outfit. What superpower would you want? Why? How would you improve the world with your power? What would be your weakness? And describe your ideal fortress of solitude. Random bits and pieces throughout this book, and most of it you do within the book. So it's a really interesting way of developing your creativity, looking at it in a slightly different way. So that's Felicia Day. I realise I should just jump to her website. Okay. So you can jump on that, and again, you can find this in most places. That's not difficult to find at all, but slightly different from what we've looked at before. But have a go. Last one of my recommendations is this one, and you may have seen this up on our wall in Minster Court. We've had a shot of this up for a little while when we did some literacy work a year or so ago. And this is Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and it's by Jason Schreier, and he works for, what's the name of the site? Kotaku, as their news editor. And you may have read some of his bits and pieces. He's broken a kind of a number of stories, some big stories. There's one particular one about crunch time and crunch working that I remember that he was. So he's well versed in the industry and within the world of gaming. And this book is really interesting. I think it's 10 different games that he looks at, and he goes through and looks at behind the scenes and talks to the developers and gives you a little breakdown of how things were working as those games came to life and how the development process worked. And it's really interesting. And there's a whole kind of wide range of games. So we've got stories behind Diablo 3, Destiny, The Witcher 3, Halo Wars, Uncharted 4, Shovel Knight, Star Wars 1313, Pillars of Eternity, Dragon Age Inquisition and Stardew Valley. So there's a whole breadth of different genres and game ideas that you could have a look at. And I don't often go back to books. But this is one that I can dip in and out of and remind myself of the whole process and as you go through. So there's big AAA titles in there like Uncharted 4, which is one of my favourite games, which is why I've just put it in there. And it just goes through the whole process. So it's a different type of book. It's not kind of art related, but if you're looking at a good read but want to keep your mind in the game industry and the development stuff that we're looking at while we're not in lesson and in college, then this is a good one to look at. The other one I wanted to show you was Star Wars 1313. Really interesting, this one, because it's a game that never came to life. So you've got a big publisher in EA that had the Star Wars franchise, and they were developing this game, and it was all going to plan, and then for different reasons, which I won't spoil for you, it didn't come to light. So it's interesting looking at that process and how that is a real kind of element of games design. And sometimes projects won't happen, but you've still got people working and ploughing all of their efforts into it to try and get it to work. So it's a really interesting read, developing kind of different ideas from different games. I think there's a sequel coming out fairly soon, I seem to remember, but don't just quote me on that. The last one that I wanted to share is nothing on table, but thank you very much to Daisy, who shared a little bit about this page. Can I go full display? There we go. That's better. Which was Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics. I think we've got a version of this. I think I've got the older version in college, but I don't have it with me to share with you. But this is Stan Lee, kind of a founder or one of the founders of Marvel Comics, as you may or may not know. But this book is really interesting. Goes into different ways that you can develop characterization and looks at how that works into kind of a 3D element as well. And there's a whole kind of wealth of stuff looking at panels and how you use that in a comic design, looking at perspective and different elements like that. So I wanted to include this because it's a recommendation from one of you and not just me going on. So take a look at that. You can see this is the quickest thing I could find for it. So it's on the Amazon page. And there's different versions of this. I think there might be slightly more up-to-date versions that have got a slightly different title. But have a look. That's Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics kind of recommendation from Daisy. Thank you very much, Daisy. So that's just a few different bits and pieces for you to maybe explore, have a look at. If you've got your own go-to books of inspiration and ideas that you use, then we would love to hear about them, and I can do another one of these where we can share some of your ideas and some of your inspirations and how that works. So it might be books, it might be particular artists, it might be people that you follow, it might be blogs that you look at, anything and everything really that's anything to do with inspiration and creativity. Share them with me on the emails, and then I can put another one of these together, which is a kind of fan favourite, if you like, with you guys giving me that information rather than me sharing my thoughts. All right. Hopefully some of those are a bit of interest to you, and you've got some ideas that you could go away and have a look at. Other than that, remember, let me know, see what you think, see what works for you, and share that with us, and we'll go from there. Thanks very much.